Of all the attributes that make the RS3 an awesome car, one of the things that attracted me 2 years ago when I was looking to buy one was the sequential indicators. To me, they exude a bit of style and a bit of class, usually reserved for high-end luxury cars. But I was a bit bummed to find out that the front doesn't have running turn signals. Now you could option them from the factory with the matrix LED headlights, and then you would get the running turn signals, but it was an expensive option. Not a lot of people took it, and because I bought my car second-hand, unfortunately it didn't come with it. But today, with the help of a company called Luminescence Autoworks based over in Victoria, we're going to right that wrong. We're going to get some running turn signals on these, plus some really cool features to do with the daytime running lights. Unfortunately, we have to send these over east and we have to get them out of the car, which means removing the front bumper. So today, it's all about getting running turn signals on the front of my Audi RS3. Okay, before we crack on with today's video, I just want to address quickly the fact that you probably haven't seen me in a few months. I haven't posted on the channel, and the reason is that I've been in a bit of a poop fight with Audi in regards to some warranty issues with the car. Now the car's fine, no need to stress there, but the dealership has certainly mucked me around. I haven't shared any of the information on my socials, but I'm happy to now that it's pretty much over. Anyway, leave me a comment if you want to hear about it, and I'm happy to make a video about it. Everything's been documented anyway. Now to make up for it, I've been doing a bit of online shopping. We've got boxes and boxes of parts ready to go on this car. So if you want to see what's coming up, make sure you smash that subscribe button, and then you won't miss any of the videos. On top of the parts that we've got, I've also finally booked in for a tune. So we're actually going to get a bit more power out of this car, and that is going to be an awesome video as well. We'll do the dyno runs and do a comparison and all that kind of stuff. I've ordered one of these race box timers, so we'll be able to do 0 to 100, quarter mile, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely subscribe because you don't want to miss any of that. All right, let's talk bumper removal for the Audi RS3. Now, to be honest, this is a job that I've been dreading because I'm not that mechanically minded. Plus, we've just had the bumper resprayed, all the gray bits here. So we're gonna take it nice and slow, take all the precautions, but I've decided to put on my big boy pants and give it a go. But first thing we need to do is get this thing off the ground, take the wheels off, and then we'll see what we're working with. Okay, with the car jacked up and the wheels removed, you've got clear access to the inner fender liner. If you're feeling energetic, it's probably a good time to give your brake calipers a bit of a clean. You can clean all the components in there if you feel that way inclined. So what you need to do from here, there's 6 T25 bolts that you need to remove. There's one on the bottom, one up near the shock on the inner, and then towards the front there's 3 holding the side of the bumper on. So basically everything that's forward of the shock absorber, and that's a T25, you need to remove those. And then just repeat for the other side. Okay, next step is to come around the front of the car and remove the 3 T30 bolts that are securing the bottom of the bumper to the car. You don't need to remove the under tray, that's not connected to the bumper. Just remove those 3 bolts and then you'll be able to free the bottom of the bumper. Okay, next up comes the tricky bit. What you need to do first is tool yourself up with a T27 bit, and you can see I kind of have MacGyvered a bit of an extension here. And there's a reason for that, because next up we need to peel this liner back, and there's 2 bolts right there. Don't worry about the inner one, just remove the outer one. So that's a T27 that go right there. And now further back in, yeah, it's really hard to see, it's right back there. It's a silver nut with a T27 head. Once you've got the liner off, it'll be pretty straightforward. I'll grab a picture with my camera and insert that here. Anyway, that guy needs to come off. I found the best way is to loosen it with the tool and then just kind of get your arm in there. There's enough of a gap and you can squeeze your arm through there and just sort of undo it with your finger. Okay, according to the instructions, I now need to pull back the wing edges from the side of the bumper. So that's this guy here. Just need to give it a good tug, release it, and then we can release the top screws and the whole thing should come off. It's probably an appropriate time to tell you that I have no idea what I'm doing. Maybe don't use this as an instructional video unless it works, and then I totally know what I'm doing. You'll see I've taped up the edges of the bumper just in case we kind of scratch the surfaces against each other, and that will stop any scratches occurring. But other than that, let's give it a shot. All right, so we're just going to grab this here, and apparently you need to be fairly firm with it, but I don't want to snap the bumper. Oh, okay. Is that it? Is that as far as we go? I feel like there's something else holding it in place here. Oh, yep, there is. Okay, I think that's pretty much loose all the way. Now, I think these are T27s. So we've got one there, there, and there. And I've also put some boxes just below the bumper. Obviously we don't want the whole thing to fall down. There's going to be, what do we got? Parking sensors, the washer, jet pipes are going to be in there. So we don't want any of that to kind of be pulled away. That's one side, and I found a nut. There she goes. All right, so really important to have these boxes here. As you can see, if you're doing it with one person, the tendency is for the whole thing to crash down once it pops out. So I'm going to chalk that up as a win. Okay, let's just take a quick break and see where we're up to. So the bumper is removed, sitting on the boxes here. From here on in, it's just a matter of removing the headlights. So we've got a bolt up here, we've got a bolt just there, and there's a bolt right at the back there, and that's why we had to remove the bumper, because that's the one that we need to get to. If you were doing this to fit an intercooler, let's say, you would probably need to, or you would have to remove the whole bumper. And just down here, you've got the water feed for the headlight washers and the cabling for the sensors as well, which you would need to detach. But I'm going to leave it as it is, because I don't need to take it off any further, and I don't want the car to get upset if we unplug the sensors and all that kind of stuff. So let's crack on, remove the headlights. Now, because I've got the IROS DSG catch can, this bolt here replaces the one on the other side, so we're going to have to remove that one as well. 1, 2, 3, let's go! Okay, I've managed to get the driver's side out, just to get an idea of what's involved. A couple of things. This little bracket here is a bugger to kind of get the light past. I'll show you when I do the other one. The other thing is that the plug, of course, doesn't have a lot of reach, so you have to get that out. You need to push down on the little tab here and then just pull it off. Another quick handy tip, obviously lay some, I don't know, microfibers or protective cloths around on the bumper, because as this comes out, it will rest on here. All right, let's see what we can do. All right, so you can see it's kind of hooked up on here. If you can flex this out the way just a smidge. So this little slide is attached to the headlight, and that actually slides in from the back in this little section here. So you need to pull this plastic trim, how can I show you? Bring it forward so that that can slide out the back, and it kind of gets hooked up on it all the way out, which is a pain. There we go, so that is free. Oops, lost my rag. Okay, so we can just rest that there. The plug is right there, and there is actually a little, I guess it's like a venting tube or something. Where is it? Here. So that little pipe, you can just gently ease that off, whoops, and then just put that pipe to one side so you can reattach that. I guess that's to vent any moisture out of there. And then if we can gently rest that out there, we'll attack the plug. Okay, there we go. Plug comes out, and the whole headlight is free. So there we go, both the headlights are out. Just got them resting on the floor here. I'll show you a couple of points of interest, just in case you want to do this at home yourself. This guy here is that little tab that slides into the that little plastic bit at the side that we were struggling with. And that's what the plug looks like. So yeah, it just pulls off fairly straightforward. All right, there we go, guys. That is part one complete. The headlights are out, ready to be shipped to Luminescence Auto Works over in Victoria. Just as a side note, those headlights are huge. They're a lot bigger than I thought, and they weigh a ton. So postage is going to be a bit of a bugger, but that's the game we play. I'm going to leave the car like this for a week. I'm off on a week's holiday up north to chase the sun. And then when we come back, it'll be time to fit the lights that have returned from Luminescence Auto Works. And I'm really excited to see what they look like. See you in a bit. Can you believe, guys, that it's taken 6 weeks to get these back? 6 weeks since I filmed taking them out of the car, which is incredible really, when I can order stuff from the US and have it here in 5 days. Yet our postal service to get things from one side of the country to the other took up to 12 days in one direction. So that's crazy. So definitely not blaming the company that actually did the work, just the postal service. So for the West Australians that are thinking of sending stuff over east, keep that in mind, guys. It's just crazy. I think I referred to the company previously as Luminescence Auto Works. It's actually Luminance Auto Works. So I'll put their details down below. Go check out their Instagram. It's definitely some good viewing. In terms of cost, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Luminance Auto Works charge $1,600 for this service. So it's not cheap. For us over here in the West, you need to factor in $150 postage to get them over east, and then $150 to get them back. Now, in terms of the workmanship, now this isn't a sponsored video by any means. I paid full retail for this, so I can be pretty critical and be honest for you guys and give an honest review. The workmanship looks pretty good. They're nice and resealed again. It's based on a sort of celastic sealant, so definitely not a factory finish, so do keep that in mind. It's not an area that you're going to see, so it doesn't really bother me that much. One thing I will be critical of, obviously the lenses need to come off to have this work done, and that exposes a risk of getting contaminants inside. Once they're inside, there's obviously no way of getting them out. And I have spotted a couple of plastic shavings sitting in there, so it hasn't been blown out properly or cleaned out properly before the lenses have been put back on. There's nothing I can do about it, but when you're paying top dollar, I guess you do expect perfection. So that's gonna bug me a little bit. Plus, one of the little tabs is broken off here on this little plastic guide or trim. It's like a little plastic bit that sits around the edge. Again, not a big deal. I can stick that down pretty easily. It's not a crucial part of it, but I suppose, once again, you do expect perfection when you're paying top dollar. Comes with this little controller here. This is going to control all the little cool functions that the RGBs have in the daytime running lights. Just runs off an app on your phone. So you will need a multimeter. We need to tap into some indicator signal wires, an ignition source, battery positive, negative, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't got one of those, grab one of those and that will help you complete this job. So let's get these installed back into the car. I'll run through a little bit about how the wiring works and where I've tapped into different sources, and then I'll show you the finished product. I'm super excited. Let's get into it.
2,000 years later.
Well guys, it's been a while since I picked up the camera, but to be quite honest with you, this thing has been fighting me the whole way. Trying to get this wired has been an absolute nightmare. If you're a DIY like myself with limited electrical skills, I probably wouldn't recommend that you do this at home by yourself. Get a professional to do it. I've spent the last 2 days trying to get this sorted. Now that it's all done, I'm going to walk you through what I've done. I'm going to point out the important wires that you need to tap into if you were to try this at home, and show you where I routed the necessary wiring for this module and for this to get up and working. So let's start with the simple stuff. Let's start in the engine bay and let's talk about the power sources that the module needs to run. So you can see in the fuse box here, I've actually just tapped into one of these guys, just with an eyelet that runs the power cord down through the bottom here, and I've actually stuck the module onto the back of the ECU, and that sits neatly around there. The second thing that you need to know is the trigger wire. Now originally I was using a piggyback fuse on, I think, one of these fuses here, but I noticed that when I switched the car off or I killed the ignition source, the actual DRLs would stay on for about 60 seconds, which is not the way to go. So what I've actually ended up doing is tapping into the DRL wire that runs from the back of the harness into the headlights. The wire that you need to source for that one is the black and green one. That seems to be working much better now, so when I switch the car off, the actual DRLs switch off as well. Now in terms of the controlling wires that run from the module to each headlight and tell it what to actually do, this one's pretty straightforward. It runs underneath the air filter and straight into the headlight. That's no problem at all. For the right hand side, you can see that I've got a neat little conduit sitting down here. That runs to the right hand headlight, and then underneath this part of the air filter, there's actually a little valley, and you just run it all the way along, and that's the way to get to those. Now comes the tricky part, and the bit that I've been struggling with this whole time. We need to find an indicator signal wire to tell the control box to turn the indicators on when we turn our indicators on, right? Makes sense. Now, ordinarily you would think that at the headlight harness, there would be a wire that triggers the indicators because we have indicators in our headlights. Makes sense, right? But no, Audi doesn't do it that way. They use some black magic, I don't know what, maybe a change in voltage that runs to a circuit board in the actual headlights to turn the indicators on. But the fact is that there is no indicator signal wire at the headlights. So where do we get it from? I reached out to Luminance and they said, they spoke to some guys and they said, you need to source or need to figure out from the rear tail lights which wire controls the indicator, then find that wire in the wiring harness that runs along the sill and tap into that. Yeah, it's a mouthful. Now that actually raises two problems. One, we now need to find a way through the firewall, into the footwell, into the harness, into the sill. And two, we actually need to locate that wire. I took the tail lights out and I did use a little wire and a multimeter, and I found the wire that actually controls the indicator, so an indicator signal wire. On the left-hand side, you are looking for a blue and yellow wire. And on the right-hand side, you're looking for a purple and brown wire. I then came through and pulled out the trim just here, and I'll pull this away and you'll see this huge harness. I moved all of this out and you can see a whole bundle of cables. Somewhere in here, there is actually a yellow and blue wire, which I have tapped into just there. For the right-hand side, I thought, yeah, they're probably running the same harness. And I looked and searched, and of course, there is no purple and brown wire. At this point, I'm getting really frustrated, but I had a thought. I wonder if they ran the right-hand indicator signal wire down the right-hand side of the car. I pulled off the rear trim, which requires you to take out the rear seats and all this kind of stuff. And sure enough, sitting in there, in that really small harness, is a purple and brown wire. So I tested it and I tapped into that, and eureka, suddenly we have indicator signals. Now the next problem is, somehow we need to get those wires from in the footwell into the engine bay, which is where the control box is. Now I tried every single way to get through the firewall, but my hands are not small enough and I'm not flexible enough, and I could not find a way through. So I kind of had to MacGyver it. I'm not super proud of it, but I'll show you what I've done anyway. If you remove this little bit of trim here, which just pops out basically, you'll find a little grommet at about this height, which goes into the sort of cavity in here. There's another little grommet that comes out just here. Now I've drilled a small hole through it, ran the wire into it. From here, I've actually tucked it behind this plastic, I guess, protector or whatever, all the way up, right up through that crack over there, runs right inside there. It's all tucked, it's all deep down inside. I then pulled off this bit of trim here, fed the wire through, and then at some point around about here, you can actually go down. Actually, it comes out sort of around about here. Then you can sort of bring it out and loop it around and feed it around into the control box, which is sitting at the back here. So yeah, an absolute headache. Plug and play, this certainly is not. So you have been warned. If you're gonna try this at home, put aside many hours. Hopefully you've got more skills than I do, especially in electronics. Keep that in mind if this is a mod that you want to do.
12 o'clock midnight.
So as exhausted as I am, yep, it's about 1:45 in the morning. Now it's time to put the bumper back on and button everything up. And now I can finally show you what these lights look like and how you control them from the app. I'll also give you my final view on this modification because wouldn't you know it, we've hit one more snag, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So we'll pick this up tomorrow when this thing, after 7 weeks, will finally resemble a car once again. So there we go guys, after all that work, I have to say it does look pretty amazing at night. The programming possibilities, as you saw, are endless. There's show modes, of course we've got the running indicators, and you can customize your DRLs to pretty much do whatever you like. A couple of issues we do have. One, we've got an error message on our dash saying the right hand light, it's not happy with that, so that's an issue. And the other thing is that during the day, they're actually not really that bright, which is an issue when it comes to the indicators, because obviously you need people to see your indicators. So unfortunately, I've been in touch with Luminance, and these will be going back across to Victoria for him to have a look at and see what the issues are. But for now, the video's gone on quite long enough with me rambling on about how to install these and all the troubles that I've had. I'll leave the programming through the app for the next video once these headlights return from Luminance and we install them for a second time, hopefully with all those errors cancelled out and a little bit brighter as well. Make sure you guys subscribe though, because the next video is going to be awesome. We're getting this thing tuned and we're going to see how fast we can get it to go and how much power we can actually get out of this thing. So smash that subscribe button, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. But I'm sorry guys, for now,